Parshas Metzora continues the halachos, of which many, and of which are intricate, of tzaras, and many forms of tumah, other than tzaras, including zav. And these halachos have inspiring lessons to teach us in all of their specifics. The neck of tzaras, as is brought down in many of the Mefarshim, can affect the person's house, his begadim, and the person himself. And all the Baalei Musar bring down, Kadosh Baruch Hu in his chesed has the tzaras first hitting the house. The person gets the lesson and does shuvah, he's saved. If he doesn't get the lesson, he goes into his begadim, getting closer. And if that doesn't work, it's the person himself. We're going to specifically talk about one pasuk, which is a very interesting pasuk, and it has to do with the nega of the house. It's in Perek Yud Daled, right after Revi Metzora. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe v'Aaron lemar, ki savo el eretz Canaan, asher ani nosen lechem lachuza, v'nosati nega tzaras beveis eretz achuzaschem. I'm going to put tzaras into the houses. A belt of Torah, when tzaras hits the house, the famous one, as we all know, is that the the Amorim hid treasures in the walls of their house. Hashem sent the nega that a person could find these treasures and make and benefit from them. However, in this particular pasuk, which is the next pasuk, Yud Daled, it says, "Uvar shelo habayis v'igel hakohen lemar." Man who has the house with this thing happening says, "Kenega nir ali baboyas." A very interesting and unusual pasuk, an unusual phrase. Kenega nir ali baboyas. All the Mefarshim discuss this pasuk in great length. There's two different mahalchim that I want to bring down here from Rabbi Dr. Tursky, because it says kinega. I think I see a nega. So he's not saying I see a nega. So in the first situation, the first mahalach that he brings down is by saying kinega, that a person who's, even though he's a paisik, even though he knows everything, when it comes to yourself, you have to take a step back and say, I am personally involved. I cannot make a psak for myself. I'm going to go and ask someone else. So if there's a halachic authority, he presents his shaila to another paisik for an opinion. Because if you're involved yourself, you're a negei b'davar. If you're a negei b'davar, you cannot be completely objective. So that's one interesting mahalach. A person has to always judge himself the toiva, but he also has to ask somebody else for an expert opinion about something that's negei to him. The second mahalach, which I thought was very interesting, that I came across this because it's a very bavusta ma'aseh, it's a very well-known fact that when you're saying there is a nega in my house, so what you're doing is you're saying I'm chayiv. Whereas if you say kin nega li b'bois, it's that I don't know if there's a nega. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Please come and tell me. So you're not saying a directly negative thing about yourself. And as we saw, know a famous Gemara Kesubas, I didn't look it up. A person is not allowed to make himself into a Rasha. A person should not say something negative about himself, from which comes the very, very famous story, worth repeating, that the Chafetz Chaim was once stopped by a stranger who asked him for the directions to the great Goyen and Tzaddik, the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim directed the man to the place, and he said, but he's not such a great Goyen and Tzaddik, to which, at this point, the man gave him a smack. He smacked him. How dare you speak about the Gadol Hador that way? Of course, when he got to the house and he found that the Chafetz Chaim was the one he smacked, he wanted to drop dead. He was fainting from embarrassment. So Chafetz Chaim smiled and said to him, you don't have to apologize. Don't be feeling bad. It was my honor you were defending, but you taught me a very important mahalach. I've always told people not to talk about Lashon Hara, and I've said this many times to myself, to everybody, you're not allowed to say Lashon Hara about yourself. Don't think that just because you're saying it about yourself, you're allowed to say negative things. And the Chafetz Chaim made that point from this pasuk. Kenega. You're not allowed to say something negative about yourself. Why? Why? And there's a simple reason for that. We know, and I've said this already also, a person should always see himself as 50-50. A person should not think he's a tzaddik. If he's a tzaddik, I can get away with a few averos. I can get away. I can afford them. Pum fakir, if he's a Russia, if he thinks he's a Russia, I have no chance to do tshuva. I'm a goner. I can't do anything anyway, so I might as well not even try. A person always has to see himself as exactly 50-50. If you do one mitzvah, you're machriya to the mitzvah side. If you do one avera, chas v'shalom, not you. If someone does an avera, he's machriya to the negative side. We always have to see ourselves as 50-50 and continue to do mitzvahs to pile on to the good side. It's a very good lesson to learn, and have a wonderful Shabbos. The Shabbos Hagadol, Parshas Metzora, this year, preparing ourselves for the great yontif of Pesach. Shabbos Hagadol being the great Shabbos because the Yidden didn't lie, and even though they took a chance to endanger themselves by saying, we're going to take your shepsel and we're going to shecht it, they didn't lie because of the covet of Shabbos, and they said, we're going to tell you the truth. It was taking a great chance, and meanwhile they did it, and that's why it's called Shabbos Hagadol, because they took a tremendous leap of faith, and they did it for the covet of Shabbos and the covet of Hashem. Good Shabbos.